Amateur radio news and notes for Friday, November 14th, 2025. I'm Ed Kabik, November 2, Echo Charlie. In the log this week, amateur radio on the International Space Station celebrates 25 years with SSTV transmissions. We'll have a contest spotlight on the ARRL Sweepstakes on single sideband this weekend. Also, we'll talk about some solar weather that happened this week, bringing Aurora and challenging conditions. Also, MVARC Nets on the air. We'll see what's happening with DX, get a solar activity update, talk about some upcoming contests, and as always, talk about some interesting online radio content. Amateur radio on the International Space Station, also known as ARRL, is celebrating 25 years of operation with continuous transmissions of slow scan TV or SSTV images from November 12th through November 19th. ARRL started their operations on November 13th, 2000 with the ISS Expedition 1 crew and have continued to make contacts with about 200,000 students, educators, and enthusiasts every year with people in orbit. ARRL encourages any decoded SSTV images to be uploaded to the ARRL SSTV gallery at arrs-usa.org/ARRL_SSTV, and you can also see the images that have been received by others. SSTV is being transmitted on 145.800 megahertz, except when there are scheduled contacts with schools, and current transmitter status can be found at a link in the show notes. ISS passes can also be calculated at a link in the show notes. It's always fun to receive a picture from the ISS, so good luck. Hot on the heels of the CW version 2 weekends ago, this weekend brings the second installment of one of the oldest and most unique contests on the air, the ARRL Sweepstakes, this time on single sideband. The contest starts at 2100 UTC, or that's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, November 15th, and runs through 0259 UTC Monday, that's 9:59 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time on Sunday night. The objective of the November sweepstakes is to encourage self-training in radio communications with a focus on message passing. To that end, sweepstakes has one of the most involved contest exchanges on the air. The exchange includes a serial number starting with 1, a precedence, your call sign, your ARRL/RAC section, and a check consisting of the last 2 digits of the year the operator was first licensed. Those precedence values include Q for single operator QRP, A for single operator low power for 5 to 100 watts, B for single operator high power, which is more than 100 watts, U for any single operator unlimited power category, M for multi-operator stations, and S for school clubs. So as an example, for me, the exchange for one person at a 100-watt station for my 30th contact would be 30 Alpha, November 2 Echo Charlie, 90 Victor Alpha. As you can imagine, this really ups the challenge and acts as more of a simulation of an actual emergency message passing operation than your average contest. Stations in the sweepstakes can work no more than 24 of the 30 hours, and if you work more than that time, only the first 24 hours of QSOs will be counted, and the off time needs to be at least 30 consecutive minutes without operating, and listening does count as operating in the rules. Logs need to be submitted within 7 days of the event is over and can be sent electronically in Cabrillo format, which is the preferred method, or via mail. Certificates for top operators will be issued to each ARRL or RAC section and division, and overall and division winners will each get a plaque. Participation pins and coffee mugs are also available for purchase. The CW version was quite busy, and I had a blast making contacts with 149 stations and a total of 62 sections. Single sideband promises to be a lot of fun this year as well. This is a great way to test your mettle and operating skills, so give it a go this weekend and have some fun. Rules and more information can be found at arrl.org/sweepstakes. Good luck. There have been a lot of solar storms in the last week, which brought widespread aurora to northern latitudes. The picture that is in the newsletter version of this podcast was taken by my friend Richard, KE4WLE in Ohio, during one of the storms. The conditions were quite extreme, with G4 level storms being experienced and KP index values of 8. In addition to the light show, the storms had wide-ranging impacts. Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket mission to Mars with 2 NASA Escapade spacecraft was postponed due to the geomagnetic effects of the aurora. Additionally, radio propagation was severely impacted, with R1 to R3 radio blackouts reported and auroral flutter being heard on the HF bands. And in fact, let's play you a little bit of a QSO that I had on November 11th with N3VO on 40 meters, and you can hear just what that auroral distortion sounds like. Definitely very cool right there. The forecast is looking more favorable in the days ahead for communications, but it certainly was an exciting week for space weather. And now let's take a look at some MVARC Nets on the air. The 2-meter FM net is on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on the repeater. That is immediately followed by the 2-meter digital net on Yaesu System Fusion C4 FM on the same frequency. On the weekends, we've got the MVARC Slow Speed CW Roundtable Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 a.m. on 3.565 megahertz CW. And then that is followed by the MVARC Cherry Tree net on Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 a.m. on 3.920 megahertz lower sideband, where we always got a great conversation, and you're always welcome to join us. Now let's take a look at what is happening with DX. There will be a good amount of DX as usual on the bands this week. Stations on the air include Palau, St. Kitts, Benin, Togo, Chatham Islands, Burundi, Tanzania, Ghana, Uganda, Madagascar, Mali, Rodriguez Island, Gabon, Colombia, Marcus Island, Minami-Torishima Islands, Solomon Islands, and Antarctica. A calendar of DX expeditions can be found at dxnews.com/calendar. And now it's time for a solar activity update. As we go to press, the solar flux index was 156 and the estimated sunspot number was 104, with 8 numbered sunspot regions visible here on Earth. Over the last week, the SFIs remained about the same. Solar activity has been at low levels in the last 24 hours. The geomagnetic field was unsettled to severe storm levels, and the KP index reached 7 yesterday. The solar wind peaked at 999 kilometers a second, and solar activity is predicted to be at high levels with the G1 to G2 or minor to moderate storm conditions today, with conditions calming down by the end of the day and to quiet and unsettled levels on Saturday and Sunday until the coronal hole high-speed stream arrives, likely bringing G1 storm conditions. The chance of solar radiation storms at the S1 or greater level is at 40% today through Sunday. R1 to R2 radio blackouts are expected in the near term, with a predicted probability of 70% today through Sunday. R3 or greater blackouts are possible, with a 30% chance predicted today through Sunday. There's also a chance of 6-meter propagation, so you keep an eye on the band and the spotting clusters to be ready the next time the magic band does its thing. Despite the current stormy conditions, it remains a fantastic time for amateurs to get on the air and to work the world. Good sources of real-time solar information include spaceweatherlive.com and solarham.com. A good overview of conditions can be found at dx.qsl.net/propagation. To see D-layer absorption data and associated radio blackouts, visit the NOAA DRAP page. And to see maximum usable frequency, MUF, and critical frequency information from Radiosonde data, check out prop.kc2g.com. And now let's take a look at some upcoming contests on the contest calendar this weekend. We'll see the ARRL Sweepstakes on single sideband, as we mentioned earlier, as well as the Ham Spirit contest, the All-Austrian 160-meter contest, the REF 160-meter contest, the South American Integration contest on CW, the Feldhell Sprint, the RSGB 1.8 megahertz contest, the FIST Sunday Sprint, the Homebrew and Old Time Equipment Party, and the Run for the Bacon QRP contest. As always, the K1 USN SSTs, the MSTs, and the CWTs will also be on the air. The full contest calendar with events and exchanges can be found at contestcalendar.com. And finally, let's wrap things up with a little interesting online radio content. John, AE5X, unboxes a new Apache Labs Anon 10E. Walt, K4OGO, builds and tests a bobtail curtain antenna. Simon, VA7BIX, builds an antenna with parts from AliExpress and gets on the air. Matt, M0DQW, takes a look at the Antuner ATR 1000 antenna tuner. Michael, KB9VBR, reviews the Alpha Antenna Hextenna. Vin's VE6LK shows a tool to eliminate ground loops on USB connections. Jasonoid builds a Harbor Freight power station. Mellow Labs hacks a cheap multimeter to give it Wi-Fi capability. Ben, VE6SFX, shows the new antenna wire he made with nickel-coated carbon fiber in a paracord sheath. Vince, VE6LK, tests out that very same paracord and shows us how he puts it together. Mike, K8MRD, goes POTA activating in rough conditions. Vince, VE6LK, takes a look at the Little Dude 6 mast. Steve, KM9G, tests out some attenuators. Mike, M0MSN, starts setting up a radio van. Matt, M0DQW, looks at the latest ATS Mini version 4 receiver. Craig, KM6LYW, shows a day in the life as an amateur radio operator. Rob, N1NUG, looks at a digital microscope. Josh, KI6NAZ, tries out the VGC BMH88 Bluetooth mic with multiple rigs. And Mike, K8MRD, shows some silicone cable ties for organization. Well, that is it for this week. I've been Ed, November 2 Echo Charlie. Thanks, as always, for joining us. We hope you have a great week ahead. Best 73, and we look forward to seeing you next week.